It's okay. Increased traffic on Washington Street if you're heading south, it's on the west side between Michigan and Pearl. There's been an increase in just a lot of activity over there. Yeah. Eric?
So the format of these meetings is kind of everything's fine in my neighborhood. I mean, the construction on Washington is driving me out of my mind, but other than that,
Who came up with that road?
it's like playing Frogger in your car. Yeah. But so the format of these where we have like public comment and then we don't like really respond and then we already have an agenda makes it challenging when like I want to respond. So I'm going to take a small opportunity to respond to Cornelius.
No, please do. That was
I am interested in the potential locations for the drug testing site. And that's because like I philosophically have no real issue with like harm reduction and certainly not with like making sure that or working to try to make sure that super deadly substances are not making it into the bodies of people in this community and surrounding communities. That said, I think, and I could be misremembering, that when we talked about this or when you talked about this last time, it was being floated as like something right over here. And when I try to picture downtown Ypsilanti, imagining like a drug testing site right by City Hall is something that's hard for me to get my head around. And that's just me being frank with you because I appreciate the honesty that you bring here. So I'm interested in where, because I think that like you made really good points about, hey, this is the community hardest hit. Therefore, having it in this community and not having a barrier of like vehicle travel to go be able to test is important. And I agree with that. And I don't know, I think about like wanting to continue to see more business and commerce and restaurants and all the things of like a vibrant downtown life. And I have lived in places where lots of things are bumped up against each other. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it isn't. And so what I've been thinking about since you last spoke to us is just like how all these things work together. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Roland.
Yeah, you can start the timer if you want to. I'm just kind of, I'm trying to respond. So yeah, the reason we chose downtown is because there's a lot of orgs that are already doing like syringe service in the Ypsi area and have been engaging, Ypsi community people who use drugs and the transit center. And as Kathleen pointed out, the area around the farmers market tend to be areas where folks already congregate. And so to offer services in those areas is kind of intuitive. I think maybe like wrapping your head around of what the program would look like would make it a little bit easier because it would be set up almost like a walk-in clinic, except you would be walking in and then receiving risk reduction counseling and having samples tested. And so it wouldn't really look like the respite space that is currently being held sometimes at the farmers market, if that was the concern.
Okay.
And then another huge positive is that there's been like kind of an outcry for facilities in that area for folks to like use the bathroom during business hours, or like plug their phone or have access to Wi-Fi so that they can make arrangements maybe for like housing for the night. And so obviously like as a program that provides like kind of wraparound services for folks, that would be something that we could do, which I think would take like a lot of burden off of some of the other businesses around there that aren't necessarily happy when folks are like asking to use the bathroom. So I hear what you're saying as far as like the optics, but I also think practically it's meeting a need for like multiple different groups, right? There's like, hey, we're not just like saving lives and engaging folks in wraparound services, but we're also like helping the local business owners deal with something that they've been really vocal about recently. So I think it's a win-win to have that location.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
That answer your questions?
does.
Good,
Herman, you good?
good.
We should finish up public
comment.
comment because we sort of moved into it without.
But I wanted to make sure that we.
Yeah,
went
no,
through
no,
all
no.
of the proposed business and then we can move to,
Sure.
so I would like to just stick with that. I in some ways want to piggyback as a business who is right there at the parking lot and we share the parking lot. I also am concerned about people and having a place to go and safety. And I really appreciate that there are more officers and there also seems to be people like are also watching that area because that has been a very unsafe area for a long time. As I've made it public a couple times, I've had kids get robbed at that corner, just sort of having that is nice. But having people, like, if we could keep people moving in the parking lot so people feel safe parking over there, because we can't park behind where we're located because we have a very small parking lot. So being able to be safely in that parking lot. So figuring out as we do all this, which is another component to think about, is how we can make the city, for everybody. But I also want to say a shout out that we've had, the summer program, we've had students that are having very hard moments, a lot of runners. And you all have been awesome with interacting with us as far as the runners go. And working with the students and finding. So that is very much I'm going to say wearing my business owner hat with teenagers that are hurting and that are running, that very smooth, very sweet, the other teenagers. I mean, I wanted to give kudos, as I'm all about giving things where it's needed, but thank you very much. And nobody's taken us up on basketball. So.
One day.
So thank you. Post business, Roland, do you have anything that you wanted to put in here from your council seat?
Just want to highlight again that I have been in contact with 2 individuals from Ward 3, so hopefully that will be those seats will be filled after our August 27th city council meeting. Still looking for the 2 youth seats as well as another individual for Ward 1. So working on those. But outside of that, that's all I got.
August 27th, just because there isn't enough time before, there's 2 a month, right?
No, we had a break.
Oh, right. All right. Must be nice.
Yeah,
So youth fill out the same application, or do you want me to find that out too? Youth.
Oh yeah, I think the youth fill out the same.
Youth fill out, I will put that all with pauses and enunciate this time. Does the youth fill out the
If I'm not
same
mis-
applications?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, yes.
So then I can.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay.
None.
Public comment. Thank you. You're good at that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, thank you for the clarification, Chair. Oh, Kat Layton, Ward 3 resident, City of Ypsilanti. Thank you for the clarification. After observing the technical difficulties on my own end, I put two and two together. So I appreciate that. And thank you again. And congrats to the new people in their elected positions. Regarding the budget presentation, I was wondering if there's a way that could be put online. I wasn't able to see what y'all were referring to, and that's a little bit of an accessibility issue and transparency. I'm not sure if it has been before, but this time it wasn't. So just wondering if that could be maybe in the minutes if possible. Also, safer communities start with supporting people, not policing them and surveilling them. And so even though you say you may be caring more and that's shown by less arrests and you're not just arresting, but these services are still needed, as was discussed, and YPD doesn't and should not provide those services because that's not in their purview. They're a law enforcement agency. But what is supporting this is passing a joint resolution with HRC regarding the lowest law enforcement priority for the city of Ypsilanti and the specifics for investigation and arrests of people with possession, and also supporting people who are trying to utilize these services. People in the community, including business owners, I have been discussing this topic specifically, at least since 2022, that I can remember talking to business owners about what it is they're experiencing. And they don't necessarily want to call 911 because they know that that's not necessarily the most conducive solution, but it's their only solution in this moment. And there's still feces, there's still urination, there's still people using, there's still needles on the ground, there's still people ODing. This is still happening. So we need to support services that can actually help that. And that includes public restroom access. That includes reducing quality of life laws and their impacts on people in public spaces. And then I added agenda item on the HRC agendas, like a place to like a next meeting agenda item list. That was helpful for when we were discussing things that were like, oh, we should talk about this next time. It was just an easy spot to put it on the agenda. And thank you so much, Commissioner Humes, for the work you did in getting some locations secured for the community forum series. I look forward to hearing more about the Freight House. Chair Wolkoff, you did touch on it. Like there is a one pager being developed for the facilitators of the community forum series. It's going to have background information, goals, and then what we're asking for is how can they help us achieve these goals? We are the community. That's why we're in this role. So not only are we like hearing what community members are telling us, we're also utilizing and leveraging the power of this position to say something. And so our issues matter. So thank you.
Thank you. I have no problem. I thought you were
I don't care.
answering the question. So yes, you can.
And yeah, Corn, Ypsi Township. I, Chief Moore talked about behavior modification. So punitive behavior modification, saying that because they increased traffic stops, that now there's a decrease in dangerous driving, which then led to a decrease in traffic accidents. And I think that really kind of illuminates a part of what the issue is. So I think our ticketing process, it doesn't matter if you make $250,000 a year or if you're unemployed. If you get a ticket, it's the same amount. Right. And so as we're increasing the amount of tickets that we're giving to people, if you happen to be unemployed and on a fixed budget and you get a ticket, that might mean that you're not able to feed your kids or pay your rent, which means you might have to break a law to try and make the money to cover your rent. Then you might end up arrested and incarcerated. And so the mentality behind the idea that like punitive behavior modification is what we need specifically in our communities that are already over policed, I think is kind of missing the mark a little bit. And I think as an oversight commission, you guys are in a place to like recognize that and point that out and maybe come up with some strategies on how to police already vulnerable communities in a way that isn't setting them up to be involved in a system that ultimately is killing them. And that's kind of what's been happening in this country for a long time. So to pat ourselves on the back for kind of just continuing that, I think is a mistake. I also want to say that an 83% reduction in narcotics arrest is absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing to hear. We would definitely want that to continue. And I think a big part of that is that, controlled substance violations are felonies, and we have a district attorney that said he's going to limit the amount of prosecutions for drug charges in this county. And that same district attorney is also saying that he's not going to prosecute folks for possession of marginal amounts or personal use amounts of any controlled substance, which is what we're pushing for with this joint resolution, right? So if Chief Moore is saying like, hey, the DA's stance has impacted Ypsilanti police to the extent that there's an 83% reduction in arrests, then absolutely let's go for this resolution. Let's align ourselves with what the DA is saying now, which is like, hey, we're not going to prosecute folks for this either. So I think it's entirely intuitive to kind of like follow that train of thought. Thank you.
For the two people on Zoom, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak for public comment.
I said I was going to say anybody on Zoom, but you got there first. No. Perfect.
No hands raised.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody have last minutes? Chief, last minute? Last minute? Yep. Do we have a motion to end the meeting at
So moved.
Second.
8:41? Do we have a second? Second. Kathy? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
There you go.
Chief,
The guy saying your
is
gavel.
domestic violence